Hello, welcome to my channel, Sea of Infinity. So in this video, I just wanted to talk about, rehash over the importance of finding, truth from within rather than focusing so much on the external reality. And a sort of like metaphor, analogy, whatever it's called, that I like to use to kind of conceptualize such a thing is kind of like if you imagine how you have color wheels, that have, all the different segments of the different colors on it. And if you imagine you have a color wheel within you, which is, all that sort of infinite source, energy, reality, truth, whatever you want to define it as. And then our external reality is almost like one of those segments, one of those colors kind of being projected out. So trying to kind of really, learn all about that color wheel off the external reality, off that one little slice, that one little segment is like, having one access to one color, only viewing one color of the color wheel, and then trying to get a clear picture of what the rest of the color wheel looks like or is, or what it means, etc. Whereas instead, if you focus more on kind of, discovering and attuning to that color wheel within, you're going to get that clearer, more complete picture. And then, the greater that you become at kind of tuning in and becoming attuned to that, the more you're sort of able to, move around your own color wheel. So then you can, align to the color or colors that, are more resonant for you and the sort of experience, you wish to have, and, projecting that out then instead. But if you're kind of, focusing so much on just that, that one segment being projected out, then you're kind of, getting yourself caught in that sort of feedback loop where you're just kind of always stuck in the realm and the experience of that one segment or of that one color. And trying to, learn everything about the color wheel from that one color projected out really kind of limits how much you're going to really be able to find and learn and understand and experience. You are not caring so much as well if the sort of external reality conflicts, say, with, a resonant truth within or a part within. Maybe you're kind of feeling or sensing or attuning to a part of that color wheel within, and then it doesn't, align to or match the external reality or the color being projected as your reality. And focusing too much on that or seeing the outside too much as the whole truth would then make you just kind of, discount and discredit the rest of that color wheel that really is within and that you can access and experience. Kind of like if you're feeling and attuning to the experience of green within, but, the color of orange or purple is what's, in your external reality. So if you base all, the truth and what have you and beliefs and everything on that external segment, on that external color, then you're really going to kind of, not kind of, like believe and attune to and, integrate that sort of, other color that is within that you do sense and feel. You really are connected to a whole infinite source within, and, trying to just limit yourself to that external, finite, often, limited sort of perception or experience really kind of blocks you off from the rest of that infinite wealth, that's available to you. Not allowing that sort of, one color or one little slice, of the infinite pie to, dictate who and, what, you are, or what is real, or what is, possible, or any of those sort of things. Not allowing that to be the basis of what you base everything off, because then you really are just, limiting and boxing yourself in to that one, color or segment. particularly when it's not really a color or segment that resonates for you or that you desire to experience. You don't want to be boxing and limiting yourself into that. And, just as they often say, as within, so without, and reality being a mirror and a reflection and a projection, but still also being mindful, of that sort of more infinite source within, but that, often what is, reflected or projected or what have you, isn't the whole entire picture. It's just, one color of the color wheel, just one little segment of, that whole wheel. So instead of allowing the feedback loop to work in a way where you allow what's, external to yourself to dictate what must, be an internal, truth or what have you, more kind of delving into that infinite, information within to then kind of reflect and project out into your external reality, instead kind of turning that feedback loop, if you will, the other way, where it starts from within first to then come out, rather than what's outside kind of focusing you on just a more singular point within. Kind of breaking the loop, as they say, in this sort of 3D human experience, we're often caught in a lot of sort of loops. And so sort of breaking that loop to realize that there never really was or is a loop. That's just our, perception of a particular avenue of experience. And really there are no, loops at all. It's all just, an infinite soup of infinite direction and infinite possibility. Rather than being stuck on a hamster wheel, knowing that you really are more like swimming in an ocean. So particularly if like an external, experience or truth or what have you doesn't really resonate for you, or is a bit more sort of, fear inducing or things like that, knowing that you don't have to, subscribe to that explicitly, as that's just, one color of the truth, one segment of the truth. And you're allowed to kind of, turn your own internal color wheel around to the truth that resonates and fits and aligns for you. All right, well, might leave this one here for now, but sending you so much peace, love, light, and blessings as always. Bye.